Oh boy.
The Yak 130 is an advanced pilot training aircraft, able to replicate characteristics of Russian 4th and 5th generation fighters. Unfortunately for us, ours is just an RC plane. We found that personal preferences can make all the difference when trying to get the most out of this plane. To start, we modified the control surfaces to the furthest out holes on the servos and the closest in on the control surfaces for max travel mechanically. We also removed the FMS reflex gyro system and installed a standard Spectrum AR620 receiver in its place. In an attempt to please Greta Thunberg, we opted not to use the optional fuel tanks, which as a byproduct also kept the wings clean. What we like about the Yak 130 is that it's very straightforward. It's not a jet meant to do crazy outside-the-box maneuvers like an F-22, but it excels at the basics. Clean, good-sounding, fast passes. Straightforward takeoffs and landings. Precision acro. However, as with any delta wing, it can bite once you get into the slower speed regime, especially with the Yak's plain flaps at the landing setting, so be sure to respect it and keep those turns coordinated, especially when slow. Overall though, it's super forgiving. We tested stalls dirty, clean, and even kept the stick held back to try some falling leaf stalls. We also tried accelerated stalls, which were also forgiving with this bird. So long as you keep it coordinated and respect its boundaries, it won't fall out of the sky on you. If it does, just unload the wing, level the wings, and gently pull out. Speaking of respecting boundaries, we were surprised at all the abuse this bird could take. We did everything from running it into a shed.
Oh boy.
To firm landings that made me question if I should keep my day job as a full-scale pilot. Rather than have to answer why the nose is crumpled like newspaper from running our plane into the shed, the magnetic Nosecone acted as an ego relief tool and popped off upon impact. This is a nice touch for the many fragile egos we have in this hobby. As with those fragile egos, this plane does have limitations to the abuse it's willing to take though. If you regularly fly in cold weather, we're talking about below 20 degrees Fahrenheit or so, you might have some problems with the retracts. Ours wouldn't function at all in those temperatures. However, once we got home and the plane warmed up a little, the gear went back to working as if nothing had happened. We were impressed with the quality of the gear overall though, as it's nice to see a legit trailing link gear that functions well on an RC jet. While we're on the ground, let's look at how the assembly process went. The no glue required assembly took me about an hour to complete. It was a straightforward process. However, it came with a few hitches worth noting. The plethora of excess cable length for the servo leads from the wing led to difficulty getting it all to fit into the fuselage, even with trying to pull the front of the leads in the receiver area. Additionally, one of our wing joiners wasn't lined up properly, and we had to gouge out the plastic with an X-Acto knife to get the tube to fit and line up. As far as things we liked, peel and stick tape was used for securing the vertical stab, which was a nice touch. I mean, who doesn't like avoiding having to wait 30 minutes for glue to dry, especially in our instant gratification era? Back in the air, well, almost. Takeoffs are a breeze and uneventful, so long as you don't yank it into the air, as with any aircraft with a higher wing loading than a Fun Cub. We messed with different techniques regarding which flap settings to use to take off with in different scenarios. For example, if you want to ensure success on grass takeoffs, the technique we used the most was to keep the flaps up until you've gained a good amount of airspeed and then drop them down to get the plane to become airborne. Once the plane is in ground effect, suck the flaps up and slowly climb out. You can also optionally take off with landing flaps to reduce ground roll on pavement or short grass. We use this technique in full-scale jets as well. Or you can use the standard mid-flap or no flaps even if desired. There's lots of ways to skin the cat on this one. When it comes to the surface types this jet could operate from, we were very impressed. Fluffy light snow-topped runways, a grassy field, a parking lot filled with snow mines, you name it. The Yak was able to do it. The only surface we weren't able to get wheels up with was thick, tall grass on a football field. Let's look at what this bird can do and can't do once in the air. Precision maneuvers were my favorite and a breeze with this bird. Jamming the sticks in any direction on the top of an upline will turn heads at your field. Additionally, whoosh passes are one of our favorite things to do with any EDF. And this one didn't disappoint there. Knife edges were possible, although they required a high airspeed to hold the beta and knife edge without losing altitude, partially due to the size of the rudder. They didn't have a lot of coupling to note either. Flat spins inverted and right side up were possible as well, but the potential combo of skill issues compared with tiny control surfaces, that is, in comparison to full flying stabs on other RC EDFs, limited the flatness that we could get out of these spins. It should be noted that these were done with an excessively aft CG as well. If you choose to do an inverted pushover, as we jokingly call it, they're definitely fun with this plane. Just be sure to carry enough energy at the top and a bit of right rudder through the upline to keep her straight. For the 3D fanboys, high alpha with this plane is a bit of a challenge. It might have been a bit more stable with a gyro, but the wing rock kept us from experimenting too much with this aspect to avoid ending up with a scrap pile on the runway. Inverted high alpha was better than right side up, but we still noticed some weird tendencies with it. Our favorite maneuver was this unnamed weird whack backflip thingy. Okay, well, in reality, it's called a Colbit when done properly, but moving on. By now, your timer should be going off, so it's time to start thinking about landing. But before we do, we flew ours on a 6S 3300 mAh pack with our flight timer set to 3 minutes. The Yak is a straightforward jet to land, but as with any jet, make sure you commit to a stable approach and carry your airspeed into the round out and start of your flare. Ease the power out and then settle her on in. For the more adventurous folks, landing without flaps, as expected, leads to a very fast approach speed. On the flip side, when you do approach with flaps down at the landing setting, don't get caught too slow in the backside of the power curve, or you'll lose the ability to round out and flare quickly due to the excess drag that the plane flaps cause. If you're going to wrestle a crosswind, we suggest using a D-crab technique as you flare to avoid side loads on the gear. Much like flying in North Dakota, RIP UND, flying in the wind sometimes is unavoidable. As with any swept wing, it gets bounced around, especially about the yaw axis. A gyro would help reduce this issue, however, we opted not to use one to protect our masculinity. Yak can also be a term used to describe someone throwing up, which is opposite of how we feel about this bird. If you're searching for a scale-esque bird that is a joy to fly in the air, go check it out on FMS's website using our affiliate link below, or use our code at checkout for $15 off your order. Worst case, just give this video a like if you're too broke to buy another plane, and maybe hit subscribe if you'd like to see more videos of us flying planes into inanimate objects. Quick announcement for everyone. The second month into our first annual monthly RC photo contest on our Discord server wrapped up last week. Congratulations to Penguin Power 65 for winning February with this great shot of a couple RC warbirds in flight. For more info and if you want to participate in the photo contest, be sure to join our Discord. As every YouTuber says, the link is in the description below. Happy landings and bounce one on for us. We'll catch you next week with a new upload.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Oh boy.
Nice. I have no idea.
Did you have an elevator?
I don't know what happened.
I was like, okay, and then shit.
Oh, dude, what the hell? The airbox are reversed.
Really?